Okay. Alright. For a second my mic wasn't working there. Alright. We get to continue with, well, Ace Attorney, the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. The first Great Ace Attorney game, and now we shift into the second part of episode 4's trial. Will we be able to successfully, get a not guilty verdict for Soseki? Probably. And will he die? Maybe. Who knows?
I have considered the defense's counsel's request for a further summation examination of the jury, and I have determined that the court must uphold the defense's judicial right to this procedure. So, counsel, you will now proceed with your second summation examination.
Man, we're just doing this again. In the same trial.
I presume the jury is ready, Mr. Foreman. We are, my lord.
So hello, Zane. Also, I don't think you're late. I just more or less just started the stream, so you good.
Very well. In that case, I must ask each of you now to state clearly and concisely for the court on the grounds on which you find the defendant guilty of this crime.
We will defend the Japanese man who's accused of attempted murder.
The jurors' contentions.
The accused left behind evidence at the scene, didn't he? Those 3 books of his.
If there was some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed, I might reconsider.
Even if the woman was storing books, it can't be related to this crime if the window was closed, can it?
Dearie me, it was only a little book. I mean, life-threatening, even with a direct hit.
Look, I just wanted to get this over with. If I don't bring home some bait tonight, I'll be in a tiny bit of trouble.
Come to think of it, we had a fire at home a while ago. They gave me the sneezers.
Yes, considerably more tangible arguments from all members of the jury this time around, it seems. With one notable exception, of course.
My learned student friend was unable to find fault in the previous witness testimony. So the court must accept the fact that it was indeed the accused seen fleeing from the scene, and moreover, no one else was even at the scene to commit the crime.
Well, if the eyewitnesses are correct, it would seem as if the conclusion is somewhat set in stone. I fail to see how it can be argued any other way.
That means I'm afraid that during this summation examination, it's essential you establish some other tangible explanation for the facts.
But how? What would even constitute a tangible explanation here? Isn't it obvious? Who stabbed the woman and how? Those 2 details are all you need to provide. Simply give us a name and a method by which the attack was conducted. And the more I was thinking, this might be hard.
But Mr. Naruhodo, you can do it. Otherwise this really will be where the trial ends.
No pressure then.
That's quite enough preamble. Proceed with the summation examination, please. I presume you are prepared, counsel.
Oh, yes, my lord. Alright, Ryunosuke, focus your mind now. Clearly, the key to this summation examination is going to be juror number 4, the maid, or should I say Mrs. Garadeb.
We have a book that disappeared from the Garadeb's house on the evening of the incident, and the 4th book found in the victim's hand.
There must be a way to link the 2. Yes, that's what we have to find. Using every technique I've learned in my short career so far. Whatever it takes.
Don't forget to keep an eye on Mr. Garadev and how she reacts, even to the things other people say.
So, press the shit out of them.
Jury examination. The defense's rebuttal.
But as we now know, there were 4 books, not 3.
Well, what difference does it make?
There's every possibility that the 4th book, in fact, belongs to the defendant's landlord.
Yes, that's the part I have a problem with.
Sorry?
Well, at the point the woman was stabbed, this landlord fellow was at home, wasn't he? Enjoying a fiery scrap with his wife or something, you said.
That's not exactly how I put it, no.
Well, anyway, the point is, the fellow and his wife were somewhere else when it happened.
I think that's what you call a strong alibi.
So it couldn't have been the landlord who did it, which only leaves the Nipponese fellow. Honestly, I can't see what all this palaver is about. It's a done deal, isn't it?
And I suppose it is, since I have nothing worthy left to say. So, you might be willing to change your decision, you mean?
Oh my, such a delight on your face, but I'm afraid I shan't be swayed by emotion. Despite what you may think of me, I am very modern, metropolitan, and rational woman.
That's great.
If one reads the morning papers, it's all forgotten by tea time, isn't it? So why read them in the first place? You see, modern, metropolitan, and rational thinking, wouldn't you say?
And not at all extreme.
As I see it, an overwhelming, suspicious Japanese man has been implicated by overwhelmingly strong testimony. So despite 1 or 2 minor puzzlements, I do declare that that man is overwhelmingly guilty. Modern, metropolitan, and rational logic, wouldn't you say?
Overwhelmingly.
But us modern gals are always delighted to embrace new fads, you know? So I'd be only too happy to consider an exciting new theory if you could come up with one.
I'd be happy to do that too, if only I could.
Let's do our very best not to disappoint a modern and metropolitan young lady.
Right. I'm glad you admitted rational there. But what about the possibility that the window was open? What about it? I mean, there's just no way it could have been. How can you be so sure? The prosecutor fellow over there said it earlier, didn't he? Windows in London are no joke. You don't want to invite that sort of cold indoors. So no, that window wasn't open. Us Londoners like sitting by the fire and staying warm, see? But you couldn't categorically state that the window wasn't open, could you? It just wasn't. They wouldn't have opened it. Then what's the point of even having windows, huh?
Counsel, you will kindly refrain from childish bickering.
Oh, sorry. Somehow I need to show there's an undeniable possibility that the window was open. Because this young man isn't going to budge otherwise.
Hold it!
But the little book was on fire at the time, was it not?
With flames of love, I'll have you know.
There's really no such thing as a loving incendiary bomb.
When he brought it upon himself, it's playing with fire to betray a fiery love, isn't it? Well, don't you agree?
Oh, well, any kind of betrayal is certainly a bad thing, yes. But I think the argument might have arisen out of your misunderstanding, Mrs. Garadev.
Never you mind that. The point is we were just having a jovial little dispute, nothing more. I don't want to have any more of these suggestions that it was anything whatsoever to do with this crime.
Right, well, we'll see about that. But what about juror number 5? Doesn't seem to be turning a hair at Mrs. Garadev's relentless onslaughts.
It's almost as though he's used to it. What a gentle soul he is.
Hold it!
You just want to get this over with? How can you sit there and say something like that? A man's future is at stake here.
Well, him and me both then, like I said before.
What?
I told you already, I'm a day laborer, aren't I? If I don't bring you some readies with me tonight, you'll find me thrown face down in the Thames tomorrow morning.
What?
You heard me. My missus isn't the one to mess about. You know, she got me first, believe you me.
Another shining example of marital bliss then.
A situation like this cropped up the other day. It was, well, did you know? It's funny, but I can't quite remember.
Sorry?
It was too frightening, that's the thing. I must have blocked it out.
Helpful. I wonder if Mr. B will ever be dragged into the Thames by his scarf. Don't even go there, Mr. Sato. There must be some way to jog his memory about this.
Hold it!
Does that have anything to do with your decision about the defendant's culpability in this case?
Sorry, what's that? You'll have to speak up, lad.
Could you tell us more about that fire?
It was last winter. Last winter, my grandchildren baked me a lovely cake on my birthday. It had 75 candles on top, it did. What a sight to behold it was.
You put candles on a cake? Was it some kind of devil worship?
Oh, of course not. It was an angel cake. To celebrate my birthday, obviously.
It seems that's a common custom here in Great Britain, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, okay, I'm guessing Japan didn't originally have that. Well, you know, fair enough, because it is more of a Western thing.
Anyway, I mustered all my puff to blow them out. Only I must have blown wrong somehow. The flames didn't go out, but the candles went flying all over the room. The furniture caught the furniture caught and everything went up. The whole place was filled with smoke.
Definitely sounds like a devil worship to me. And by the sneezes, I presume you mean a cold? But how did you catch a cold from a fire?
What a fiasco it was. The grandchildren, bless them.
Oh yeah, hello. Hello, my shadow. Or is it Ricky? I think, it's been a while.
And that because the whole room had filled up with smoke, of course. We had to open all the windows to clear it.
The windows?
The biting winter air rushed over me like the devil dancing on my grave it did. I caught a terrible cold from it. It put me in hospital for a while. I won't forget that birthday in a hurry.
I knew it was a devil worship all along. But something about this old man's story is playing on my mind for some reason. We need to demonstrate who, apart from Mr. Natsume, could have attacked the young woman on the street, as well as how he or she could have done it. Yes, but once again, the juror statements are full of personal prejudice. A lot of them seem convinced they're right, even in the face of logical arguments to the contrary. I think you're going to need to pit them against each other to force them to accept an alternative explanation. Yes. I don't necessarily need to find contradictions between their assertions. Just a connection might do the trick. Alright, let's see what I can do. If anything stands out, I'll go in for a strike. That's the spirit. Oops. Oops. Yeah, I know. Oops. I meant to go back, not forward. Yeah, I know what to do now. Hit.
Objection!
There we go. Those two juror statements clearly contradict one another.
They do. How exactly, counsel?
Don't point at me again, I told you it wasn't me!
Huh? What's that you say? Speak up, lad. Speak up!
Juror number 3, do you see?
Oh, me?
See what, sir? Did you hear Juror number 6's account of his birthday celebrations last year? It seems, despite being a Londoner, he once opened his windows in the middle of winter. Well, yes, of course, because it was an emergency. I mean, obviously, if the room was filled with smoke from a fire, then you'd be mad not to open the... Oh! Exactly. On the day in question, at the time of the incident, there was a fire in the Garadeb household, and Mr. Garadeb had the following to say about it. The whole place filled with smoke. Oh. Oh, my hat. Oh, you seem to be drinking a lot of tea. Excuse me. Juror number 4, do you have something to say about that? Mrs. Garadeb.
Oh, dearie me. What is the meaning of this? How dare you imply that I'm hiding who I really am?
It's imperative that you confirm something for the court. So please, it's time to drop the pretense now.
What is it?
When the fire started in your house that day, did you or your husband open the window?
Well, I beg your pardon? What are you insinuating?
The room would have been thick with smoke after the carpet and bookcase caught fire as they did. In a situation like that, it's inconceivable that you wouldn't have opened the window.
And what if he did? Oh, alright then. Yes, you're right. My husband was frantically trying to open the window, which can't have been easy since I continued to give him a justly deserved book battering.
Even though your house was on fire?
Oh, you never stop throwing until the anger subsides. It would be terribly bad for the nerves to do otherwise.
Of course. I should have realized.
That's a significant step forward, Mr. Naruhodo. You managed to establish that the window was open. We simply must have that added to Mrs. Garadeb's formal statement.
Now that you mention it, yes, the window was open at the time. I've forgotten, but it's true. I think we just pinned the two. Those two statements clearly contradict each other. Oh no.
I'm sorry, but as a former of the jury, I have to object. That's complete nonsense.
What?
I'm a banker, don't forget, an educated man. And there's no contradiction as far as I can see.
Oh, shit.
Quite so, Mr. Foreman. I will not permit a whimsical attack against the good members of the jury council.
There was nothing whimsical about it.
It's very important to listen carefully to every jury, Mr. Naruhodo. You can decide.
Okay, so I don't have to do it again. Because I had no idea if I had to do it again.
Hold it!
The fourth book found at the scene of the crime shows very obvious signs of fire damage. And the title of the book is The Lion's Pride. The same title, in fact, as the book that Mr. Garadeb told us he had been reading.
Well, I really couldn't say.
On the day in question, did you or did you not throw at your husband the copy of The Lion's Pride that he had been reading?
I did. It was the first thing I could lay my hands on, so I heard it straight out of him. And now you come to mention it, yes. He was rather enjoying reading it, you're right.
Why did you not reveal this information to the court from the outset?
Because I'm calling you insolent little man, I didn't remember. At times like that, you pick up and throw whatever you could lay your hands on as well as you know.
I really don't.
It really does restoring a book, much less the title of it.
Excuse me? What is it, juror number 5?
You know something? I remembered what it was. That memory I blocked out.
Ah,
It was listening to what this granny was saying. Brought it all flooding back.
Who are you calling a granny, you cheating devil? I'm Mrs. Garradeb, the maid, I'll have you know.
the man doesn't even flinch. Please tell me that's not because he's used to being here all the time.
It was about 2 weeks ago now. I just got back home after work like. I put my hand in my pocket for the wages I just earned that day, and I nearly died. There was a hole. Every last penny had dropped out.
Oh dear, what a disaster.
You haven't heard the half of it, boy.
Oh,
The wife was cutting up some chicken at the time. I couldn't hardly get the words out, but I told her straight. I've lost a day's wages, love. Next thing I knew, the blade was whistling past my ear. Stuck to the wall next to me, it did. About an inch deep.
no words, just terror.
I could smell it then, you know. That god-awful stench of the Thames. I was sure going to end up face down in the muddy banks that night, I can tell you. Now, that's a real disaster, isn't it?
I'll never use the word lightly again.
Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is this. When the women lose their rag, they'll throw anything at you. Knives, hatchet, hammers, you name it.
Mr. Naruhodo, you mustn't think that all women are so short-tempered and unrefined.
No, I wasn't thinking that.
Throwing household objects at people is, well, it's so uncivilized. At least attack with honor, using a bow or the like.
What? Attack?
Who are you going to attack? Never mind. Anyway, this man's words will be rather significant, I think.
Alright, we'll come back to the bow and arrow thing later, if I dare. Oh, she could have thrown the knife and it landed on the victim. Oh shit. Oh wait, she could have thrown a knife. So it could have been an accident.
Objection!
Those two statements clearly have a deeply significant connection.
Good grief, you mean they don't contradict each other? Explain, counsel, at once.
Juror number 2, do you think perhaps that this could be one such novel alternative?
Oh my, whatever do you mean?
An alternative explanation as to how the victim was stabbed in the back.
What are you talking about?
We've demonstrated that the fourth book, The Lion's Pride, that was found at the scene of the crime, originated in Mr. Garradeb's room on the top floor of his house. Therefore, it's equally possible that some other object besides the book could have found its way from the Garradeb household to the street below.
What's that now?
After all, Mrs. Garradeb could have thrown any number of different objects at her husband. Isn't that right, juror number 4?
What are you insinuating now, you little beanpole?
I'm beginning to think that, ever since the true origins of this book came to light, perhaps she had a feeling this might be what happened.
Now you listen here, you Eastern Galah. As the foreman of this jury, I demand a straight answer. You give us this yarn about some other object making its way out of the house. But what? What was it?
I'm really taking a big gamble here. That was a bold accusation to make, but I haven't had any real evidence to back it up. But I'm certain that at the very least this warrants further investigation. Alright, Mr. Foreman, I'll try to explain the defense's theory. The other object that found its way from the Garradeb household to the scene of the crime was the jackknife.
Take that!
Juror number 4, Mrs. Garadeb.
What? Oh no!
I must apologize in advance for this. But I need you to confirm something else for the court. This knife. Have you ever seen this knife before?
Oh!
Good Lord, Counsel, what on earth are you doing? That's the weapon that was launched at the victim's back, man!
It could have been accidental. My lord, remember that when the victim was attacked, Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb were in the throes of an argument. Mrs. Garadeb was hurling everything she could at her husband, who had been backed up against the window. A window that had been opened to clear the smoke, and through which a book sailed to land at the crime scene.
You can't seriously believe that the book was found in the victim's grasp?
Are you saying that it flew out the window and across the street to land neatly in her hand?
Oh, even my missus hasn't got aim like that.
Yes, I admit, there are many details we don't yet understand. But that's the point. That's precisely why we must not allow this trial to end. Not right now.
Oh my.
Ah!
Mrs. Garadeb, your answer, please. Have you seen this knife before or not? I'm guessing that answer was yes. My lord.
My lord, I wish to change my decision. I'm a woman on my word, after all.
Thank you, madam.
Yes, I agree. I certainly didn't see this coming, but I just don't think it would be right for this trial to come to an end by now. And now with so many unanswered questions.
Oops, I clicked off on accident. Mr. Foreman.
I'd have to agree. Not that I think the granny didn't mind.
Yes, you know what? I'm not quite happy about this at the moment either.
All together now, ladies and gents.
Woo! And we're back in action. We did it!
Oh, congratulations, Mr. Naruhodo.
So, as a result of the defense's summation examination, a number of jurors' leanings have changed. 2 jurors called guilty, and against 4 now calling innocent. Accordingly, the opinion of this court is divided. And this trial will continue.
I proceed to double flip off the prosecutor. Take that, Von Zeeks. Summation examination for the win.
Now then, Lord Von Zeus, how does the prosecution wish to proceed?
This trial is rapidly descending into a farce. Like a corked wine, the first few sips are bitter enough. But what follows is so repugnant, it's good for nothing save the gutter.
If I may, Lord Von Zeeks, the defense has just put forward a credible alternative explanation for what happened.
Credible? Is that your considered opinion, Mr. Foreman? The defense's argument is a joke to which I barely know how to respond, but let me start by insisting that you must all familiarize yourselves better with the relative positions of those places being discussed.
What do you mean by that? What's his angle this time?
It should already be more than apparent that between the crime scene and the Garadeb household runs a rather wide street, Briar Road. Which means that the distance from the Garadeb's house to the scene is some, yes, 15 yards.
Let me see, 15 yards. That's around 14 meters.
14 meters? Oh, that's a little farther than I imagined. And, as you ladies and gentlemen of the jury rightly noted, as having portentous significance, the fourth book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, the smoldering book, wantonly hurled by the lady of the house, traveled some 15 yards, to land on the opposite side of the road, neatly between the collapsed victim's fingers and thumb. Is that your final conclusion, my learned and deluded friend? And did the jackknife follow a neat, near identical trajectory to plunge in the middle of the victim's back? This fantasy is somewhat stretching the notion of having a bad day for the victim, I think. Even those pathetic serialized detective stories have more believable plots. Ugh. There's nothing I can say to that.
That prosecutor loves the sound of his own voice.
Mrs. Sato.
Serialized detective stories are pathetic, are they? How dare he?
Maybe let's pick our battles here.
My lord, might I be allowed to speak?
As judicial assistant, you may speak for the defense, yes? Go ahead.
The prosecution may consider the idea a fantasy, but what the defense has postulated was believable enough to persuade the jury to change its leaning, and as such, the court has a duty to explore this alternative explanation as thoroughly as possible. To that end, Juror number 4, Miss Joanne Geradev, must be called to testify and submit to cross-examination.
Saints alive! A cross-examination of a juror? Order! 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 Well, this is highly irregular. It is unprecedented for a member of the jury to be summoned to the witness stand.
Objection!
And unnecessary.
Lord Van Seeks?
There are already witnesses in the stand whose testimony the defense may further cross-examine. If my learned friend's farcical theory has any truth in it, then both a burning book and a jackknife must have flown through the sky before this couple's eyes. And we must assume they would be able to testify accordingly.
What say you, witnesses?
Yes, sir. Constable Raleigh Beat, reporting for duty, sir.
Well, good morning, officer.
Sorry for dozing until now, sir. I haven't slept for a month on account of a villain who has appeared on my beat, sir. Oh, they are so heroic, these London bobbies. Patricia, my darling, I've been neglecting you, but no more. Oh, Raleigh, my hero, you make me swoon.
Very well. I hereby reject the defense's request.
Oh,
And order the witnesses in the stand to testify again. State forthwith before the court any details pertaining to the defense's alternative explanation of events.
yes, sir.
Constable reads report.
This case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Gallagher. Believe me, a London Bobby is good for his word. You see, sir, the window at the top floor of the Gallagher house are top hinged casements. Obviously, if anything had been thrown out of the window, we would have seen it. I did leave the scene to go and fetch help, but my trusty Raleigh was there to make sure nothing was disturbed. I didn't take my eyes off the crime scene for one moment, sir. Nothing straight to report on that front, sir.
Well, this is quite startling. Top hinge casement windows.
That detail was not in the police report, Constable.
Ah, yes, sorry about that. I must have been a little drowsy.
You cannot excuse your sins with drowsiness every time, Constable.
No, sir.
Sorry, but... What exactly is a top-hinged casement window? Yeah, I want to know too, because I have no idea what the fuck that is. And you... You cannot excuse your ignorance with such trite remarks, my learned friend. Of course. Sorry.
I found it, Mr. Naruhodo. Cast your mind back to the windows in Mr. and Mrs. Garrett's room.
Alright, I'll try.
So the window opens in order to allow air to circulate inside the house. But as a top...
Oh, that's what the top hinge is.
But as a top-hinged casement window, it swings open along the upper edge, you see.
Ah, okay. I'm glad you rectified your ignorance. A casement window's most prominent feature. It is its stay, a metal bar which prevents the window from being opened beyond a certain amount. It prevents it opening? This is all news to me.
Absolutely correct, sir. In other words, if a book or knife would have been thrown through the open window, it would have clattered against the pane and fallen straight down to the pavement below.
No. You see the problem then? Good. Your education in Windows is complete. There was never any possibility of either the book or the knife traveling 15 yards over the road. That is, unless the window pane had been shattered, something we've discounted already. That can't be!
Did you see that, Raleigh? That young Japanese man just collapsed in agony. Oh yes, my darling, I saw you crumble before me. Oh, Raleigh, you're so strong.
How's this happening? I haven't even started the cross-examination yet, and my argument's already been destroyed.
Counsel, if you could drag yourself upright again, the court awaits your cross-examination.
My lord. Oh good, another desperate situation. By which you mean they don't open fully, is that correct?
Yes, sir. They're just there to allow a bit of air through the house, you see, so they're restricted as to how much they open.
And therefore, anything thrown out the window from inside the room would simply strike the pane and fall to the street directly below. For clarity, allow me to mark the map. Here is the location where objects would have fallen.
Yes, directly opposite of the scene of the crime, on the other side of the rather wide road.
Would it have been so hard for somebody to mention this top-edge casement thing before? Well, I have another question for you, Constable.
And what would that be, sir?
How do you even know? Why would you have any idea what sort of windows Mr. and Mrs. Garredeb's house is furnished with?
Ah, well, sir, that's very simple. You see, I helped with the investigation yesterday.
Excuse me? Do you have something to say? Do you have something to add, Mrs. Beat?
Sorry? Sorry?
You look, well, delighted. Is there some particular reason for that?
Oh, I was just remembering, that's all. We really were so lucky.
Lucky? What do you mean?
Well, of course I feel terrible for the poor woman who was attacked. Don't misunderstand me, please. But we were just so lucky it didn't happen on Wally's beat. I was so close, you see.
Oh, I hadn't realized.
Oh yes, that street, Briar Road. That's the boundary between Raleigh's beat and the next one. Isn't that right, my love?
Constable Beat.
Oh, yes, that's right. That's the reason I was helping out with interviewing the occupants of the Garadev household yesterday. The house was on my beat, you see, sir.
I really was cutting it close then. Constable, I wonder if you could clarify something. If the Garadev household is on your beat, does that mean that the pavement next to it is as well?
Outside Mr. Garadev's house? Yes, ma'am. The pavement on that side of the road is part of my beat.
I see. I was unaware of that.
Just think, if the woman had been attacked just on the other side of Prior Road, we would have never been able to go for that meal to celebrate our wedding anniversary. But that's the life of a Bobby after all.
Extraordinary people, our Bobbies, tirelessly working for the benefit of all Londoners.
Do you know what I think? I think it was the good Lord's way for rewarding my Raleigh for all his hard work. Don't you think so, my darling? That must be it, Pat, my love. That must be it.
I think perhaps we should make sure that we have that information officially on record.
Leave it to me, Mr. Naruhodo. I'll take care of it immediately.
Okay.
And now it's my turn, I think.
We would have seen it. Okay.
Hold it!
But according to my notes here, the sun had gone down already and it was dark.
Oh, but Raleigh and I were strolling along, gazing at the night sky and looking for our lucky star.
Sorry?
The star that will guide us to eternal happiness.
Can it guide you to the answer to the question?
If a flaming book had cut across the sky in front of us, it would have lighted up like a shooting star. And if I'd seen a shooting star, I would have made a wish upon it. Let Raleigh be an inspector, I would have said, 3 times at least. Of course, what with the smog and everything, we couldn't actually see any stars.
In short, are you trying to say that neither a book nor a knife crossed the sky before you?
Yes, sir, that is correct, sir. As sure as the night sky in London is starless, sir.
It certainly seems like they're telling the truth.
And then we saw the poor woman fall to the ground, so we ran over to help her.
Hold it!
Yes, you said that you went to a nearby police box to fetch another officer. Is that right?
That's right, yes. If it had been on Raleigh's beat, I would have known exactly where I was going, of course. Don't feel bad, my love. You can't be expected to know the location of every police box on every beat. So Raleigh told me the way, only I sort of got a little lost on the way. Patricia, my darling, that's why I love you. Your terrible sense of direction is bewitching to me. Oh, Pat. Oh, Raleigh.
Oh, please.
So I was gone for about 15 minutes. But like I said, my Raleigh was at the scene the whole time, making sure nothing was disturbed. I was off duty at the time, of course, but a true Bobby is never really off duty, sir.
Hold it!
Nothing to report.
That's correct, sir. I had my eyes wide open the entire time. Never looked away for a second. No one else approached the scene and nothing was removed from it. I can swear to that on the yard's honor, sir.
Really? That seems a little strange.
I beg your pardon, sir? Strange, sir? Seems altogether regular to me.
This burned copy of the London's Pride was originally in the Garadev household. So the question remains, how did it find its way into the hands of the victim? Can you shed any light on that, seeing as you were at the scene of the crime the entire time?
Aha! Could it be a different copy, sir? One that just happened to be burnt as well?
Even if that were possible, why would the victim have been gripping a book like that in her hand? As we can see from this photographic print, she had a bag over her shoulder.
Well, sir, that book was in the lady's hand from the moment we arrived at the scene.
Is that so? There's something about this statement that's not sitting right with me. The two mysteries of how the knife ended up in her back and how the book ended up in her hand. There must be some common thread between them.
I'm sorry, Mr. Naruhodo. I had no right to speak out.
What? What do you mean?
I requested the cross-examination of Mrs. Galadev without consulting you, even if the judge did deny me.
Oh, I see. Well, I agree with you. We do need testimony from Mrs. Galadev. Let me just double check my evidence. Yeah, okay, books. And there's the receipt. And the case file. If we're ever going to get the truth out of this matter.
Do you really think so?
Well, think about it. No matter how far it is across the road or how that window opens, Mr. Galadev's book found its way to the scene of the crime somehow, didn't it?
You're right.
And then there was Mr. Galadev's reaction to me showing her the knife. The woman's hiding something. I'm sure of it.
You're right again.
We need to use this cross-examination to uncover more clues. We'll get to the bottom of this one way or another. I swear.
Yes.
I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment. Nothing strange to report. It's burned. Let me look at the knife. How can you say that for certain?
A very good question, sir. And the answer is this. It has the noble founding principles of the force written on it as a reminder to us all policemen of our sworn duty.
He showed us that before, didn't he?
Did he? I can't say I remember.
To patrol the streets of London town, and uphold the peace of the common man. It's what the job's all about. And that's why I can stand here today beside my long-suffering wife and tell you Bobby's good for his word, while rubbing my tired eyes admittedly. Sir? Oh, Rolly, you're so manly. Of course I am, my darling Patricia. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly.
No, none of this is what I meant. I meant, how can you say for certain that this case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb?
Ah, I see, sir. You should have said so earlier, sir.
Yes, well, so, could you answer the question? That was a waste of time then.
Absolutely, sir. I will answer it to the fullest of my ability, sir. There's a surprising reason why Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb's domestic dispute can't be related to this case. But before I get into that, sir, just one thing.
Yes?
I very much like you and all your countrymen to understand the great British institution of Scotland Yard. So I hope you'll take back some tales of us London bobbies and how we uphold our guiding principles.
I wasn't planning on going back just yet. I've only just arrived here.
So, to that end, sir, I'd be happy to lend you my warrant card for your perusal. I must warn you, you won't be able to get through it without shedding a few tears.
Thank you. I'll try. Okay, new evidence. Okay. Sweet. Okay, I'm gonna take a look at that.
Can I ask you something? Please, Mr. Lawyer, sir?
Oh, yes, of course. What is it?
You're doubting us, aren't you? I can tell.
What? I wasn't really. I mean, what's she doing?
Please, just because I'm a woman, it doesn't make my testimony any less valuable. You might just see me as the wife of a policeman, but I'm a woman on my word I am.
I really don't remember ever suggesting that I doubted you.
No excuses, I don't want to hear it. My voice will be heard. My lord, you'll let me speak, won't you?
Yes, Mrs. Beach. I will allow you to supplement your testimony if you so desire. Sometimes the path of the least resistance is the sage one.
That was a very loud mutter.
I heard that. The Japanese man thinks a policeman's wife's word counts for nothing, does he? Well, watch out, sir. I might let you get away with something like that, but my Rolly won't.
Duly noted, Mrs. Beats. Please, I humbly ask you to continue.
What could she possibly be about to say, I wonder?
Let me, look through this evidence book. Item number 1. A policeman will strive to preserve the peace within his allotted beat. And number 2. A patrolling officer is expected to walk 20 miles around his beat every day for the furtherance of community relations. And then Metropolitan Police Regulation. Hold on. Okay, Principles of Policing. Metropolitan Police Regulations. Any crimes fall under the jurisdiction of the beat in which they are discovered. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Okay. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with the initial and help detectives. Okay. Any crimes fall under the jurisdiction of the beat in which they are discovered. Wait. Yeah, okay, hold on. That was it.
Hold it!
Mrs. Beat, nobody's questioning what you've told us.
I saw it, I did. That evening, I saw it clearly. That little Eastern man with the whiskers and the funny curved back, slinking away from the scene. And I know what I didn't see as well. I didn't see any flame books or knives flying through the sky.
All very clear. You also mentioned something about having a poor sense of direction?
Oh, yes, well, that's a little embarrassing, really. I'm always ending up at the wrong place when I made arrangements to meet Rolly. He gets ever so cross.
Excuse me?
Excuse me!
Constable Beat, is there a problem?
No, sir, no problem, sir.
Did your wife's remark just now bring something to mind, perhaps?
Oh, well, in a way, sir. Yes, sir. I was just remembering that same thing happened that evening is all.
You mean Mrs. Beat lost her way on the night of the incident?
Well, you see, I sent her off to find a police box in the next beat over from mine. But she was gone a fair bit longer than what I was expecting. I thought she'd been back inside 10 minutes, but my darling was gone at a good 15. Oh, really? You're such a tease. But the reason I was gone for so long was because of the bouquet, City. The bouquet?
Sorry, what bouquet are you talking about?
Oh, it was a present from our wedding anniversary. Really so romantic. He saved up for it with farthings and halfpennies he found in the gutter while doing his rounds.
Yes, how romantic.
I'd forgotten all about it until just now. Had you, my darling? Oh yes. But that was just between us. No talking about it to anyone else, darling. You have to promise. Really? Oh.
What was that all about? Constable Beat looked very obviously troubled during that exchange.
I'm afraid I can't offer any useful insight, Mr. Naruhodo. But I'm quite sure of one thing. You have to ask Mrs. Beat about the bouquet.
Mrs. Beat, this bouquet you just mentioned, I'd like you to add details about it to your testimony, please.
Oh, really? Yes, I'd love to.
You dropped your bouquet and ended up being lost for a while.
Hold it!
You mean you dropped the bouquet at the scene of the crime?
Yes, that's right. Oh, I was so upset. When we ran over and saw it was a woman with a knife in her back. I was so shocked I dropped the bouquet Raleigh gave me. It was in a dark spot where the streetlights weren't casting any light, so I didn't notice at first.
And then, you went to the police box to report it to the policeman whose beat it was on?
Yes, and I came back to the scene together with the other constable, you see. That's when I spotted my bouquet again. But the funny thing was, when I went to pick it up, it was nowhere near the victim's body at all.
In case you need reminding, Mrs. Beat, the victim is not deceased.
I was all flustered for a moment before I heard a voice calling me from the other side of the road.
Your husband, presumably.
That's right, silly me, I gone over to the wrong side of the street. Although I'm going to blame this bouquet this time. I can't think of how it got there. I really can't.
So the bouquet somehow moved from one side of Briar Road to the opposite.
Curious indeed.
Isn't it? But the worst of it is, I forgot to pick the bouquet up again when we left the scene. The beautiful rose Rolly bought me. With that change from the gutter you spent so long collecting.
By bouquet, do you perhaps mean this solitary rose?
Oh, yes, that's it. That's the bouquet Rolly bought me for our anniversary, with all bits of change he found in the gutter.
Maybe just call it a rose?
Tell us, Lord Van Six, where did you come by the flower?
According to the report by the police officer in charge of the crime scene investigation, it was found on the edge of the pavement in front of the Garadeb household. In front of the Garadeb's house? Although it wasn't noticed until the morning, as it lays where the street lamps cast no light. It was believed to be of no relevance to the case, since it was found on the opposite side of the thoroughfare.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. Can I please have it back now, please?
No, I think for a good measure, this road should be added to the court record as evidence.
Oh. But it's a symbol of our love. I want it back after the trial. You hear me? I want it back.
Good grief, rest. Rest assured that I shall do my very best to not forget, Mrs. Beach.
Let's take a look here.
An English rose. It's such a beautiful flower.
Ah, this is a rose, is it? I've never seen one before.
Do you not take an interest in flowers, Mr. Naruhodo?
I wouldn't say that exactly, but I do know 3 types at least.
Gosh, 3?
Yes, plum blossom, peach blossom, and cherry blossom.
Perhaps you should consider branching out. Learning some that aren't fruit-based trees, for example.
It's very stylish paper the flower is wrapped in, isn't it?
It's just an old newspaper, Mr. Naruhodo.
Oh, I suppose it's because I'm not used to seeing English print. It looks so exotic to me.
Ah, I see.
Is something wrong?
Oh, no. I was just thinking that if you wrapped a stone-baked sweet potato in English newspaper, it might look like some sort of fancy cake.
Ah, Sasada-san, you do love your cakes. Anything new?
An English...
Oh, it's just same thing. Doesn't seem like anything's new here. Actually, hold on. Because she said in her previous... Hold on. Well, let me go back. Sense. Oops. Well, Mr. Naruto, what do you make of all this? Yes. The whole idea of an invisible attacker has been troubling me all along, and I believe I'm starting to get a picture of what really happened here now. The fourth book that had no business being at the scene of the crime made sure that Mrs. Garrett was hiding something from us, but it's becoming increasingly clear that someone else has been hiding something from us as well. I think I may already be armed with everything I need to strike a decisive blow here. This time, it's going to expose the whole truth about this mysterious affair. We would have seen it, but it was proven that there was...
Hold it!
Let me try pressing it again. So I have the evidence, I just need to find which statement to present it to. Well, present whatever the evidence is that I need to use. Nothing would do... No one else approached to say nothing was removed from it.
Objection!
Okay, that was the right one. Okay, I was being a bit paranoid. Okay. You claim, Constable Beat, that there was nothing to report in the 15 minutes or so you were guarding the scene. But that cannot be.
What? What do you mean to say?
In your testimony just now, Mrs. Beat, you explained to the court that when you arrived back at the scene of the crime with the policeman assigned to that beat, the bouquet you had dropped at the victim's side was no longer anywhere nearby.
Objection!
Yes, on the opposite side of Briar Road to where the victim was attacked. But considering the size of that meager bouquet, if a single sorry bloom can be so described, no doubt it was blown in the wind across the street, back into the gutter where it belongs. Damn.
Mika?
But if that were the case, why didn't Constable Beat not testify to the fact? No one else approached the scene, and nothing was removed from it. Constable Beat swore that... Oh my god, another bot in my chat. Hold on. There we go. Constable Beat swore to that on Scotland Yard's honor.
But the bouquet belonged to me. It was nothing to do with the case. That's why Raleigh didn't mention it, I'm sure.
No, because sadly it's not only your bouquet we're talking about here. More than one thing in this case is mysteriously the wrong way around. What are you talking about? Think about it. Besides Mrs. Beat's bouquet, there's Mr. Garrideb's book. Now we're trying to prove that it happened on Raleigh's side, on Raleigh's beat. Mr. Garrideb's copy of The Lion's Pride, which was thrown out the window by his wife, would have struck the pane of the casement window and landed here, on the west side of the street. And yet, it was actually found here on the opposite side of the road in the victim's hand. Meanwhile, according to the testimony we've heard, Mrs. Beat's bouquet should have been dropped here at the scene of the crime, on the east side of the street, but in fact, it was actually found here, on the opposite side of the road in front of Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb's house. There's no logical explanation for those things, unless somebody deliberately moved them.
What are you trying to say? The way you're talking, it sounds like you think my Raleigh's done something wrong.
Don't listen to one word that scrawny lawyer says. Wittering on about books and bouquets. Why should we care? It's nitpicking. That's what it is.
Oh, good. Mrs. Garrideb's come around. You might call it nitpicking, Mrs. Garrideb, but deliberately meddling with the scene of a crime is a criminal offense. It's called, tampering, Mr. Naruhodo. But the person responsible for this tampering cannot admit to it, for a very subtle but compelling reason.
Objection!
Tampering? You barely heard the term before. Tell us, my learned friend, who would possibly have had the cause to carry out such an elaborate deception? Yes, there is someone who tampered with the scene of the crime that evening. All the evidence and all testimony points to that one particular person.
Counsel, I must demand that you substantiate this conjecture. Who are you saying is responsible for tampering with the scene of the crime?
Miss Susato, no. Yeah, I think it might be Raleigh. Because he said he had his eyes on the crime scene the whole time. And Patricia said she got lost. So I think it might be Raleigh.
Take that!
Obviously, there's only one person it could have been. Constable Raleigh Beat. It was you!
What? A policeman? A member of the Scotland Yard?
What nonsense! Why would my Raleigh do something like that? There's no one straighter than my husband. No Bobby works more tirelessly for the people of London.
Mrs. Beat, you said in your testimony that your husband asked you to go to a nearby police box to fetch the officer on duty. The 15 minutes that you were absent from the scene is the only opportunity anyone had to tamper with it.
You're making it up. It's all nonsense. It's all lies. What about the Japanese man with the whiskers? I bet it was him. He did it.
Objection!
If that was true, Constable B would have seen him do it.
Oh.
And forgive me for pointing it out, but when you dropped your bouquet, Mrs. Beat, it was after the defendant had fled the scene.
Ah, well.
Objection!
First you make accusations about the landlord and his wife, and now you incriminate a policeman as well. But your accusations lack one important thing. You claim the crime scene was tampered with, but there is only one reason anyone would commit such a reckless crime. to hide something.
That's right, he's right. But my husband and I just happened to be there, that's all. So why would he have anything to hide? It doesn't make sense.
You've offered no motive for this alleged tampering. And until you do, your accusations are nothing but empty threats.
Constable Beat had a very good reason for wanting to tamper with the scene of the crime. Oh! He moved the body so that he wouldn't have to deal with it. So he wouldn't have to, because the original crime scene was on his beat. So he just moved it to the other guy's beat so that it's his problem. So he didn't want to. He didn't want the war to get in the middle of his honeymoon. To get in the way of his honeymoon. Or to his, I guess, yeah, to his private dinner with his wife. That's why he did it. He's like, nah. Oh, I was like, oh man, we're having like a honeymoon. You know what? I'm just gonna push this body to that guy's beat so that he will deal with it. Nah, so I don't think he did the murder, the attempted murder. So he just did it because he didn't want it to get in the middle of his date. Oh man, I think that's why he did it. That's the key to this entire affair.
Mr. Naruhodo, have you managed to solve this mystery?
Counsel, you have made a very serious accusation against a London police officer. If you are mistaken, I'm sure I need to not point out that your reputation as a lawyer will be irrevocably damaged. With that stark warning in mind, you will now explain to the court the motive for this alleged tampering.
Yes, my lord. Constable Beat's motive for tampering with the crime scene was to hide where the victim fell. Yeah. Where the victim fell to the ground. That is what this Bobby had to cover up at all costs. What?
Where the victim fell? You mean where she was attacked? What are you talking about? We told you at the very start, didn't we? On the pavement of Briar Road. We saw it happen, remember? It was right there. As if anyone didn't already know.
That's certainly what everybody has been led to believe. But in fact, that isn't where the victim was stabbed at all.
What? What?
I'm beginning to wonder where this tumultuous trial will end, Counsel.
If that's your assertion, then the court is dying to know, my Nipponese friend. Where are you proposing that the crime actually took place that evening?
Right here, bitch.
Take that!
But that's...
On the opposite side of the road.
I don't understand.
On the evening in question, Mr. Garrett's book fell directly down from the open window above, and your bouquet, Mrs. Beat, never moved at all. What did move was the scene of the crime itself.
Good gracious!
Objection!
Perhaps you haven't been listening to the ample testimony the court has heard. But these witnesses both saw the moment the attack took place.
That's right. That's right. I saw it with my own eyes.
It was 5 o'clock in the evening and already dark. There was the typical London fog on the ground. When you saw the incident unfold and ran to the victim's aid. That was actually on the west side of Briar Road.
No, that's not true. It can't have been. It can't have been.
Constable B then arranged for you to be absent for a while by sending you for help. And during the 15 minutes you were away, he transplanted the crime scene. He moved all the things shown in this print, the victim herself, and the four books. He moved everything, in fact, to the pavement on the east side of Briar Road.
Extraordinary.
But the constable overlooked one thing.
What? What did he overlook?
The bouquet, I presume.
Exactly.
The prosecution told the court just a few minutes ago about the discovery of the rose bouquet.
Lord Von Zeek said it wasn't noticed until the morning, as it lay where the street lamps cast no light.
Yes, it couldn't be seen in the dark, obviously. Which is why it was only the bouquet that was found in its original position on the pavement on the west side of Briar Road. And that is the defense's theory about what really happened that evening. How do you respond, Constable Raleigh Beat?
Well, I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to nod off again, and I haven't slept properly in a month. Did I miss anything important? Oh, Raleigh. It isn't true, is it? What the lawyer said is all lies, isn't it? I know it is, because you're the most upstanding righteous man I know. I had a dream. A terrible dream. All the things I did that night. Everything come out. Everything exposed. Ellie, it seems it wasn't a dream at all.
Good golly! Order! What on earth is the meaning of all this?
Oh, Raleigh, why? Why do something like this? Moving our corpses is a criminal offense, isn't it?
Wishing the victim dead should be one too.
Constable, explain yourself. Why would you do this? As a respected member of the Scotland Yard, your duty is to protect the good people of London town.
I can't say, sir.
What?
I really am ever so sorry about all this. For damaging the Yard's reputation, for everything.
I have a possible explanation for why, on that particular evening, Constable Beat felt compelled to move the scene of the crime. I can think of one reason.
What? How could you possibly know? You, a foreigner, presuming to understand the mind of a Scotland Yard policeman.
And yet, Lord Von Zeek, it is this foreigner who has uncovered the startling truth of the matter thus far. I believe it will be beneficial to the court to hear this extraordinary young lawyer's theory. Counsel for the defense, if you would please.
Yes, my lord.
Now then, I think you had better show us some evidence.
At once, my lord. England, Japan, it makes no difference where you come from. Human emotions are the same. And I think I have a fairly good idea of the feelings behind this man's actions.
What gives away the motive for Constable Beat's unthinkable actions?
The warrant card.
Take that!
Yeah, he moved it because he didn't so that he doesn't have the responsibility to help with investigations, so that he can spend time with his wife without interruptions. Well, without any further interruptions, that is, aside from the one they had. I realize that I'm a foreigner in this land, and I have only just arrived from Japan, which is why all this information about London's so-called bobbies is completely new to me. I have learned that, though honorable, patrolling the beat is the most demanding work in the world, for example.
Keeping the peace, looking after the citizens on his beat in all kinds of ways. There's no doubt that the young Bobby is charged with a great deal to do each day, certainly.
But for Constable Beat, the day in question was special.
Special? How?
On account of this bouquet, my lord.
Oh yes, it was our very first wedding anniversary.
Yeah, the anniversary, yeah. Yup, he's now realizing it too. Constable Beat had worked so hard to be able to afford this simple gift for his wife, and was so looking forward to taking her out for a celebratory meal.
When he and Mrs. Beat stumbled upon a crime along Briar Road.
It was on his beat.
When he saw that shadowy figure through the fog collapse on the pavement ahead of them, what must have gone through the man's mind?
But sir, just on that one particular day, I was looking forward to celebrating my wife's my wedding anniversary. Mrs. B puts up with a lot of being married to a bobby like me. I wanted to show my dear wife how much I care.
This is the warrant card that Constable Beat offered to lend to me earlier. Inside, among the rules for patrolling policemen, it says, when a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives.
Aha!
Constable Beat. Is that, or is that not the reason why you moved the whole scene of the crime that day?
Yes. Everything you said, it's alright.
Got him. So that's it. It was all to do with the boundary of your beat.
Oh,
Exactly. To summarize, the incident actually occurred on Constable Beat's beat.
Good gracious! Constable, do you realize the gravity of what you have done?
it was the first time since I became a copper that I'd ever cursed God. Stay close to me, Pat. The criminal could still be lurking somewhere. As we ran over to the scene, I had every intention of doing my duty as a police officer. We've got to report this to the station as quickly as possible. But then it dawned on me. I realized where we were, where the victim was lying, and what that meant for me. When a crime is discovered on this beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Why here? Why did this have to happen here? And why tonight of all nights? Why? It's a copper's job to guard the scene of the crime, so I told Pat she'd have to go to the nearest police box and fetch whoever was on duty there. It was then, when I opened my mouth to speak, it just came out. I couldn't believe the words that were coming out of my own mouth. This is the next beat to mine, Pat. So you have to go to the police box that covers it. Turn right along Mearsham Street and then... I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Oh, Constable.
I just wanted, just that one night, to take my Patricia out for dinner. Oh, Raleigh, just that one night.
You knew that if the incident was on your beat, your evening of celebration would be ruined, and so you decided to move the entire crime scene outside your jurisdiction, just across the street to the east pavement of Briar Road, which falls under the neighboring beat's care.
You see, I thought, well, I was sure the victim was dead, you see.
I beg your pardon?
Oh, of course he did. Otherwise my Raleigh would have never left the poor woman on the freezing cold pavement.
Ah, I see your meaning now.
That's why he moved the body, yeah. Yeah, fair enough. It was hard to tell from a glance.
But God called me back from my sins, didn't he? That's why I missed the rose I bought for Pat. Oh no, Raleigh. That was all my fault. I should never have dropped it in such a dark place. I'm so sorry, Raleigh.
And can you tell us, Constable, how many books did you move from one side of the road to the other in total?
Oh, 4 it was. Yes, sir. Definitely 4.
Three of them dropped by Mr. Natsume, and the fourth being the one that fell from the window upstairs in the Garadeb household, of course.
But what made you place that book in the victim's hand? When all the others were scattered haphazardly around, I mean.
Oh, well, sir, that's because that's how I found it.
How you found it? What do you mean?
When we first ran over to the scene, the victim was already holding the book.
Okay, I'm thinking the book first was thrown out, and then the victim saw the book, picked it up, and was like, what the hell? And then the knife came after that, and then it fell on top of her back, and then she collapsed. That's what I'm thinking.
So, when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand.
You're sure it was this book, The Lion's Pride, that the victim was holding?
Oh, yes, sir. No doubt about it, sir.
Interesting.
I thought it was an open and shut case at the time, you see. There were only two people at the scene, and Pat and me both saw it happen. However, which way you look at it, it had to be the fellow who ran off who'd done it, I thought. I couldn't see the harm, really. I didn't think moving it all over the road would make a jot of difference. I suppose this is it for me now. I've had it.
My lord,
Yes, Lord Von Zeeks?
I believe that concludes the cross-examination of the witnesses. Constable, you may withdraw.
Yes, sir. Mr. Prosecutor, sir. What will become of my Raleigh? What will happen to him?
For now, you are free to go home. The police will contact you in due course.
Please, don't punish my husband. This was all my fault. It's because I'm always moaning at him for coming home late. Leave it now, Pat. Let's go home. I'm tired. All right then, my love.
One last thing, Constable.
Sir?
Let this be a lesson to you. In a criminal investigation, every detail matters, however insignificant it may seem to you.
Yes, sir.
Carve that lesson in your mind. And never again make the mistake of tampering with the scene of a crime.
Never again, sir? You mean to say?
Leave now. This trial is not yet over.
Sir?
Well, given that he confessed, he might have a lightened sentence.
Well, quite a startling revelation, I must say. Whoever thought of a third party transplanting the entire scene of a crime like that?
Indeed, my lord. Nevertheless, there are some immutable facts here. Principally, that the accused, Mr. Suseki Natsume, is the only person who could have possibly committed this crime.
No, I disagree. Now that we know the true scene of the incident, there is something else. Another person who could be responsible for the knife in the victim's back.
Forgive me for being presumptuous, but I believe the prosecution is probably well aware of this possibility already.
Lord Von Zeeks, is this true?
Very well. Name the person if you will, and if further investigation is warranted. The prosecution has no objection to the trial continuing.
You will name this other person who could have perpetrated the crime.
Joanne Garadeb.
Take that!
The defense would once again like to request the cross-examination of a new witness, my lord.
Once again?
My assistant made the same request earlier, in order to finally reveal the truth about this case. it's imperative that we cross-examine juror number 4, Mrs. Joanne Garadib.
Me? Oh dear me.
Objection!
That request has already been denied.
Objection.
But the situation is very different now. Mrs. Garadib, answer me this.
What do you want to know, you little toad?
At the time of the incident, you were engaged in a violent argument with your husband, Mr. John Garadib. In the course of the argument, a minor house fire was ignited. And to clear the smoke from the room, your husband opened the window that looks out over Briar Road.
Well, what of it?
You threw this book at your husband when he was cornered with his back against the window. Upon striking the pane of the top hinged casement window, the book plummeted directly down, finding its way to what we know to be the true scene of the incident.
Yes, that's what I said. What of it?
During the argument, you were beside yourself with rage. As such, you threw not only just books, but anything you could lay your hands on. So, let me ask you one more time, Mrs. Garadib. This knife, the one removed from the victim's back, have you really never laid eyes on it before?
Oh! I don't recall it.
Seriously?
I'm supposed to remember everything I picked up and threw at my husband. And anyway, the man over there in all that regalia said members of the jury needn't testify, didn't he?
Conveniently, yes.
Objection!
No, I have no recollection of saying that at all, juror number 4.
Oh!
Make no mistake, you jurors are not special in any way. You are not immune to the judicial process. If you know something about this knife, madam, let the truth come out.
But that's just a common old kind of knife. It could have come from anywhere. We have several like that at home. If one went missing, how would you expect me to know?
What's that?
Are you joking? What are you saying? Please, Mrs. Garadib.
No, you listen to me. I refuse to believe all this nonsense. I couldn't bear the thought that I'd injured someone. Do you? I couldn't bear it.
Oh, the poor woman.
So, yes, I want evidence. I want to see that hard evidence if you're going to insist on this being my fault. If you would have to prove to me that I threw that knife, if that's what you think, come along now, chop chop, do your worst.
Well,
Mr. Donaldo?
if I had evidence like that, believe me, I would have thrown it at her already.
Then take the stand, juror.
Oh,
The prosecution does not object to the defense's request to cross-examine this woman.
Thank you, Lord Von Zeeks.
I'm going to have to testify?
Jury number 4. As I'm sure you will appreciate having observed it with your own eyes today. Witness testimony can lead to the most extraordinary truths being unearthed. Truths of which the witnesses themselves may not even have been aware of.
Oh, dearie me.
So I demand your full and unadulterated testimony, Mrs. Garadib. And mark my words, in this court of law today, we shall extract the truth. Do you concur, counsels?
Certainly, my lord.
Oh, that's what I'm hoping for, my lord. Ooh, new camera angle. This is such a strange feeling. For the first time since arriving in this country, it actually feels real. I'm here, in the Old Bailey, and I'm a lawyer.
Witness, state your name and occupation.
Yes, my name is Sean Garadeb, and I'm a juror and such like.
It sounds like even she doesn't know if she's a housewife, or a maid, or what anymore.
The court has decided your testimony is required in order to clarify matters in this case. Do you understand, madam?
Yes, my lord.
You will tell the court everything that took place in your household on the evening in question. And I warn you, do not attempt to hide the truth.
Oh, dearie me.
Chin up, Jody. Nothing to worry about now.
How are you? Oh, he's got a walking stick, right?
Oh, I didn't know you were here, John.
Wasn't only you in the room that day, old thing, was it? Rather, think I ought to testify as well, don't you?
But what about your knee, dear?
Don't you worry about that. I hardly notice it. I'm not the sort of chap to ever lead a comrade to face disciplinary action alone.
Oh, John.
I presume you are Mr. John Garadeb?
Yes, sir. Former second lieutenant of the 3rd Regiment of the 4th Northumberland Fusiliers, sir. Seen my fair share of action and now living the quiet life, as it were.
The quiet life? Were you not engaged in an incendiary battle with your spouse on the day in question?
Ah, well, yes. Quite.
I believe this may represent our first in the proud history of the British court. Calling a jury to the witness stand is unprecedented. However, the court will hear your testimony now, juror number 4, and that of your husband. You will recount clearly and concisely the events in your home at the time of the incident in question.
Sir, at once. Oh, sorry. Sir, at once. Yeah. The Battle of Garadeb. Yes, on the day you're referring to, the wife and I did have a bit of a skirmish. Can't recall the reason now. Knocked a candlestick over and set fire to the carpet. Soon had it out, though, and got the window open.
Meanwhile, I was picking up whatever I could find to throw at him.
Plenty of knives around our place. Can't say I noticed if 1 or 2 went missing, I'm afraid. If that bally thing in the victim's bag really was one of ours, you'll have a job proving it, I think.
It sounds as though it was quite the battlefield in your household that evening.
Hey, Zithos. How you doing?
Although, an entirely one-sided assault it seems.
The enemy caught us on the hop, sir. Had no choice but to dig in and take defensive measures. To be honest, if the enemy had kept shelling us for another minute, we'd have been toast. Of course, a veteran such as myself is only too aware of that on every battlefield, you're just a gnat's whisker from death at any moment.
I'm doing something. Yeah, I'm doing all right. Slowly, figuring out from time to time how to make adjustments to my stream settings, because my last VR chat stream was pretty laggy, and it was also giving me motion sickness when I was having the headset on because of how laggy it was. Yeah. So I think I may have figured out how to resolve much of the lag. Yeah, I just have to change the encoder settings on my OBS so that when I'm streaming while playing VR chat at the same time on a map filled with a lot of players, like 40 plus people on it, it should be less laggy. Fingers crossed. Because a change in encoder can really change how things are run in terms of speed. And hopefully this encoder won't get overloaded that easily compared to the X264. Because I'm now using the QSV, I think? Yeah, because in Neon Divide Alternative, they recently changed their map cycle process, so it's not 2 maps active at once, so it's no longer the entire attendance split into 2 different maps on the day of session. It's actually everyone on the same map for the week, so it's not divided into 2 maps. So it's gonna be something to get used to. Yeah, because back when it was still divided between 2 maps a session, it was relatively fine for me. I didn't have too much lag, so it was pretty much bearable. But because they had to cut down on that because they're trying to reduce burnout for the DMs, so they make it 1 map per session, 1 map per week instead of 2 maps a week, because they don't want to overwhelm the DMs too much, especially when one of them is recently stepping down and they're trying to replace staff members and also come up with or possibly rectify what storyline they have planned for the community. On the right side though, I managed to get a player slot. And yes, Hayden has returned in Neon Divide Alternative in a different form. I don't have the recycling unit anymore because otherwise that would straight up fuck up the crafting system. So it's been reduced to a sterilization chamber that can be used for storage, and apparently and they also added and the DMs also added additional buff that I am allowed 1 free medical reroll per session as part of my signature edge. So I'm like, oh, neat. So yes, my character lives in the wasteland in Scraptown because the Hayden in the Neon Divide Alternative universe is an extremely old medical droid unit from the medical company, the medical mega corporation Avalon. And I think, according to the timeline, because the Warrior Unification first started like, I think 20-something years before the present of the current timeline. Yeah, so my character's pretty much like around 20-something years old. So it's a pretty old model. Just recently got a paint job by one of the Scraptown locals because they saw like scratched out Avalon symbols on top of my character and be like, yeah, we don't want any corporations to recognize this bot, so we're just gonna clean that shit off and give him a paint job. Session 1 immediately. Which, I mean, yeah, it feels kind of funny because on session 1 it's like, okay, got to try out this model, and I'm a player now. And then immediately after session 1 I have to go to Snow to change the model. To change the model aesthetics because of that one scene. Which is kind of funny, but yeah, he's fine with it. I just wasn't expecting any changes to happen anytime soon, let alone on the very first session of the character's debut. Yeah. Anyway, back to it. Are we still talking about a marriage with Coral here?
Well, I must say I'm dubious that this testimony will shed any light on the origins of this jackknife.
In combat, one's focus narrows such that surroundings are barely noticed. These witnesses may not be able to offer anything more than they have testified already. This may be a dead end.
Von Zieks may well be right.
Well, whatever the chances, we only have this last cross-examination to uncover the truth, Mr. Naruhodo.
Yes, I'm afraid so.
Very well, Counsel. Begin your cross-examination.
Alright, here we go.
Hold it!
The reason is what you told us yesterday, I believe.
Yes, that's right. If I remember correctly, it all started because of a note that was tucked into the pages of a book belonging to Mr. Garadeb.
A rather passionate note, in fact, but Mrs. Garadeb found the note, discovering her husband's little secret.
She gave him a mighty number of slaps across the face for it, too.
What a sordid state of affairs.
hell on earth?
I say, when that chap says he can't recall such things, it's common decency not to drag it all out. And besides, half of it was wide of the mark anyway.
He's sweating.
A likely story.
These waters run very deep.
And what transpired next after these multiple blows to the face?
Hold it!
And the fire also spread to some items of furniture, didn't it?
The bookcase, my armchair, anything of mine really. Just so happens there was some bath water around the evening, so I sloshed that about to put it out.
A most precarious situation you put yourself in.
Ours is a 3-story townhouse on the west side of the street, where the water main isn't connected yet. I have to draw water from a public water pump during the day, if you need any, you see.
The lodgers are always moaning that they can't get any water at night. Although, that little moustache Japanese man buys water in bottles, I believe.
The defendant, Mr. Natsume, you mean?
Yes, he receives a stipend for his studies, you know, from his home country. Can you imagine being able to brew a pot of tea at all hours? He's obviously very well off.
Have you actually seen the state of the man?
I believe he uses all of his income to buy books.
Well, anyway, the point is, I was able to douse the fire with water, fortunately enough.
Hold it!
Even though the room was on fire?
As far as I was concerned at the time, it was more important to extinguish my anger than the flames. When a woman wants to throw, she must throw.
That is most certainly not true of a Susato takedown, Mr. Naruhodo.
How did she know I was thinking that? So, please cast your mind back and try to remember. Was a knife among the items that you threw at your husband that day?
In all honesty, I don't recall, but I feel I must point out that I'm no monster. Let me see. Some bread, a cabbage, garlic, a towel, and a sponge.
By Jupiter!
A napkin.
Oh.
Excuse me!
Do you have something to add, sir? Mr. Garadeb.
Don't shoot! Sorry. I beg your pardon.
Man had PTSD for one moment. Did your wife's remark just now bring something to mind?
Nothing of any significance, no. Just that the barrage of projectiles the old thing launched in my direction was something more solid than she implies. Books, bricks, and the fire poker, I seem to recall.
Ouch.
And the woman's aim is uncanny. She landed a direct hit with every— What? Good grief, woman, we're not at home now. This is a court of law.
Oh, dearie me. I'm so sorry, dear.
She's pouring tea into his pipe. What's she even doing with a teapot in here?
Honestly, John, I would never have thrown such things at you, obviously.
Well, take a look at this then. How do you suppose that happened,
Your pipe, sir?
Had this thing into my hand as usual at the time of the onslaught. Not to clean out with one of her soft projectiles, she did. Yes. And when I went to pick the thing up, it was broken in two. I'd like to see a sponge do that sort of damage.
I see. Your pipe was broken.
It would never have been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid. Anyway, I managed to bandage the thing up for now.
Ah, you really don't want to exaggerate, aren't you, dear?
I wonder what we should make of this account. The defense believes Mr. Garadeb's remarks just now to be of great significance.
Objection!
This war veteran's words only tell us one thing. Betray a fiery wife, and pipes, as well as hearts, may be broken. Sentimental wisdom, perhaps, but hardly worthy of adding to the formal testimony.
Indeed. Common sense, one might say.
Might one?
In that case, would you at least permit us to examine the pipe, sir?
Huh? Well, I don't see why not.
Oh, dearie me. There you go again, trying to ingratiate yourself with a young lady.
Very well. The court will accept the gentleman's pipe as evidence.
Yippee!
Alright.
I hope I didn't speak out of turn, Mr. Naruhodo.
Nope, you just got me more evidence, so I'm just gonna examine this real quick. Alright, let's see here. Oh, well, what do you know? Oh, something just twinkled inside the chamber of the pipe there. How did he not notice that? How did he not notice like a fragment of the knife inside of his pipe?
Yes, I saw it. Something stuck there, I think.
Let's turn it over and give it a shake.
What's this? It's a tiny fragment of metal. It looks like the tip of a blade or something.
The tip of a blade? Surely, it couldn't be. It looks to be in a sorry state with that bandage around it, doesn't it? But for some reason it feels slightly ominous to me, like it's trying to shout out a warning. Probably because it's the same blue as Mr. Gatadeb's dressing gown.
I suppose it must have considerable sentimental value to Mr. Gatadeb, given that he's gone to the trouble of repairing it like this.
Either that, or he can't afford to replace it. This is the tiny piece of metal we found in the chamber of Mr. Gatadeb's pipe.
It looks like the tip of a blade or something.
The tip of a blade?
Is something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo?
I don't really know. There's just something niggling me. But I can't quite put my finger on what it is.
Perhaps in that case, it would be wise to examine some of the other pieces of evidence again?
Yeah, I know which one. Oh. Open sesame! Alright.
Oh, look here, Mr. Naruhodo. Just at the tip, a small piece of the blade appears to be missing.
Wait, part of it's missing? I could be wrong, but I've just got a feeling. You remember this?
Ah, that's a tiny fragment of metal we found inside of Mr. Gatadeb's pipe.
Yes, and just maybe.
Oh my, it's a perfect fit!
Somehow, I just knew it.
I was just feeling rather disappointed for you that your request was turned down.
Oh no, it's fine. Thanks to Sada-san, we have some new evidence to work with. We should examine it carefully.
Well, thank you for that. Rebuttal, Mr. Gatadeb. Now we could return to the crux of the matter. What can you tell the court about the knife used to attack the victim?
Okay, that got updated. Small piece of metal. So wait, which one do I present then? The jackknife or the fragment? I'll press a bit more.
Hold it!
Sorry? Would you care to elaborate?
Nothing to say, really. Rather partial to a spot of carving, you see. Pipes and whatnot. Fishing tackle, you know the sort of thing.
It's a fashion we won't share. I like to carve little wooden trinkets too. And there's my leatherwork.
Sorry to say, we're always losing knives about the place, and we have dozens of the things.
They sell them at the market sometimes. 20 for the price of 19. Needless to say, I'd snap them up. John prefers to use 2 knives at meals too, instead of a knife and fork.
That's weird.
No, Joanne, we don't want these people to get themselves slimy.
Here we go again with the scoldings.
Why are they being so invasive? I imagine it's because they don't want to believe it. But they can't bear the thought that it might have been one of their knives that injured the victim.
Which is entirely understandable, of course, but still. Go on with your testimony, witnesses.
Sir,
Ah, okay. And that's when we presented.
Objection!
What? Let's go. What? Huh? Do I have to present the fragment? Oh my god. Bruh. Oh my god. Do I have to present? Oh my god. God fucking damn it. Okay, hold on. That's the extent of their testimony, is it? What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, I think we've heard all this before, to be honest. I can't say I'm particularly confident that we'll be able to prove anything new from this testimony. But in this cross-examination, it's absolutely essential. Did we establish how this knife came to be at the scene of the incident? Yes, I know. I'm sure both of them must be feeling very worried. Worried that it was in fact a knife belonging to one of them that caused the victim's injury. If we could find out even a tiny shred of evidence to support that theory, it would clinch this trial for us. It would explain everything. Yes, it would. So for Saseki-san's sake, we must find that last crucial piece of evidence. Okay, so I have to present the fragment. Oh my god, what difference does it make? It's literally... Oh my god, the evidence is our link, bruh. Jesus Christ. Even an Ace Attorney inspired game has considered possibilities for these kind of things, that similar evidences can be used to validly disprove a statement. Oh my god.
Objection!
Bruh, I got cucked by the knife. Mr. Garadeb, could I ask you to take a good look at this, please?
You can ask, but I can't see the belly thing. I can't see a belly thing.
You can't?
Used to call me Dead-Eye Deb back in the regiment, of course. But that was some time ago now. Even when I'm trying to enjoy a large print book by the fire these days, I struggle to tell a B from a D and a P from a Q, to be honest.
Oh, he does. Dearie me, it's rather wearing being asked about every other letter and every other word.
You must be very doozy.
What is that? A tiny scrap of metal.
Yes, almost certainly from the tip of a blade. And what may appear to be first... Wait, hold on. And what may appear at first to be just a tiny scrap is in fact a crucial piece of evidence.
Interesting. And where did the defense come by this evidence?
It was lodged in the chamber of Mr. Garadeb's pipe.
My pipe, you say? By Jove. I wonder how that got in there.
And what precisely does this fragment of metal signify, Counsel? Are you suggesting that it is in some way related to the matter of the stabbing on Briar Road?
I am.
What?
When put together with another piece of evidence already in the court record, I believe this tiny fragment of metal will unravel the whole truth of this case, my lord. Oh man, he's got a burned bottom.
You appear rather confident in that extraordinary statement, Counsel. Very well then, present the pertinent evidence to the court. What evidence, when paired with this fragment of metal, allegedly reveals the truth of this entire case?
Booyah! This is the knife that was found in the victim's back. If you look closely, you will see that there is a small piece at the tip of the blade that is missing.
A common issue with inferior blades sold at unsavory street markets. Criminals who use them regularly leave the tips lodged in their victims' bones.
And what of this particular knife?
No doubt its tip has suffered a similar fate, now languishing somewhere near the spine of the victim.
Objection!
No, that's not the case. The tip of this particular knife's blade is the very fragment of metal we discovered in the chamber of Mr. Galadeb's pipe.
Good grief, Lord Von Six?
I don't believe it. The knife from the crime scene and this fragment of metal are a perfect match.
Good golly gosh! Order! Is this some sort of Eastern sorcery?
This is no magic, my lord. This is a miracle.
A miracle?
Savant Cease has figured it out, has he?
Counsel, explain this extraordinary coincidence at once.
Yes, my lord. It's the crucial point we have to ask ourselves here is when did the fragment of metal find its way inside Mr. Garadib's pipe? Something that was clarified for us in the most recent witness testimony.
I had this thing in my hand as usual at the time of the onslaught. Knocked it clean out with one of our soft projectiles, she did. Yes. It would never have been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid. Oh, dearie me.
During the argument between the two that occurred just as the victim was on the pavement below, Mrs. Garadeb flung this knife at her husband. However, the knife missed Mr. Garadeb, instead striking the pipe in his hand at the time,
Which caused the tip to break off, of course.
Good lord.
yes, and that is when the tiny tip of the blade found its way inside Mr. Garadeb's pipe.
The chances of that are 1,000,000 to 1.
And yet there's no other credible explanation for how the tip of the blade ended up in your pipe. Then, after losing his tip, the knife ricocheted off the pipe and flew out of the open window.
Ah.
In short, this knife, which fell from the window of the Garadeb's house, is the very same knife that struck the victim in the middle of the back on the street below. Oh gosh, oh dear, oh no! I just noticed she's standing on a crane.
Objection!
A full-bodied theory, I'll give you that. A complex bouquet of seemingly trivial points, plausibly arranged to create an almost passable vintage. Allow me to toast my learned friend's characteristically Nipponese approach to bottling his argument.
Sorry?
But after all, it is just a theory. The bottle I fear is corked. Because you see, it's spoilt by an insurmountable consistency.
An insurmountable... What?
Lord Von Zeeks, explain yourself. What is the inconsistency you claim to identify?
An inconsistency of the simplest nature, my lord. The victim was found with a knife planted in the middle of her back.
Yes, and this motherfucker has no reason to put his leg on the stand. Yes, and watch how we're going to cook this man alive, because we're just going to say, well, the victim first found the book lying on the floor, and she bent over to pick up the book, but as she was about to pick up the book, the knife fell on her back, and she almost died. That's right, you silly little man!
Now, Joanne, old thing, what are you getting so excited about?
Let us consider the basic facts of the case once more. The victim was walking along the pavement before being stabbed in the back and falling to the ground. If the knife that struck her had fallen from above, there was no possible way it could have planted itself into the victim's back.
Ugh!
Order! Order!
Right, you see, that's exactly right. If the knife had fallen on her from above, it would have struck her on the top of her head.
Well,
He's lost for words, look.
look, I knew it. I never liked the theory in the first place.
I don't know though, what really did happen? It would appear the defense has made a rather spectacular blunder.
If a theory has even one inconsistency, it cannot stand. Your theory, my learned friend, is history.
Bro, all we had to do is say that the lady just was going to pick up the book, and in the middle of picking up the book, the knife fell onto her back because she was bending over to pick it up. Like, come on, man. We could just say that the book fell out first, and then she because the book fell out first, and then the knife came out after. Like, come on. It was confirmed in the testimony earlier. We were so close. I could see the truth. I was so sure we were on the right track. But now the way has been blocked completely by just one simple inconsistency. Or in other words, we simply need to eliminate that one inconsistency, and the theory will stand. Mrs. Sato. You mustn't worry, Mr. Naruhodo. We were just caught off guard, that's all, and your mind went blank. But if the path you were on is indeed correct, then a way will present itself. The key to this is in the courtroom, in the court record. I'm sure all the information you need is there. Yeah, the fucking book.
It seems you have nothing to say, my Nipponese friend. Well, your silence speaks volume. A tacit acceptance that your theory is fatally flawed.
Objection!
This inconsistency doesn't mean I was on the wrong track. It means that I need to sharpen my mind and dig deeper for the truth. It's a test. Yes. If the knife fell on the victim from above, there's no way it could have hit her in the middle of her back. Under normal circumstances, that is.
What are you implying?
Counsel?
There's a piece of evidence in the court record that can explain this inconsistency. That can explain how the knife that fell from above could have pierced the victim's back. We already have the answer.
Goodness!
Utter madness!
Surely this must be the last time. Counsel, present the evidence of which you speak.
Alright, I hope that this fucking works, because there's actually quite a lot of evidence that I can choose from. But I think it might be the photograph, because it's of the lady holding the book. Like, come on. This is the last inconsistency, the final piece in the puzzle. If I can successfully make sense of this, the truth will be laid bare at last. The evidence that explains how the falling knife became lodged in the victim's back is...
Take that!
There we go. Alright. Nice and simple. This, the fourth book found at the scene. This is the final piece of evidence the defense will present.
The burnt book.
Is that on Mr. Garadeb's book?
Yes, and to understand its significance, we have to consider how it came to be at the scene in the first place. The photographic print clearly shows the book in question, and the victim holding it in her hand.
But as we all now know, it was the police constable that put the book between her fingers like that.
Quite so, as part of his wholesale transplant of the crime scene to the opposite side of the road.
That's true, however. As part of his testimony, Constable Beat made an extremely enlightening statement on that point. But what made you place that book in the victim's hand?
Oh, well, sir, that's because that's how I found it. When we first ran over to the scene, the victim was already holding the book. So, when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand.
In other words, the victim had already picked up the book of her own volition. And clearly, that must have been before she suffered the knife wound.
Well, I should say so. After being attacked with a knife, I don't imagine she'd have been doing much of anything.
So the question becomes, why did the victim have that book in her hand?
By jingo! I think I'm beginning to see what may have happened now.
Oh dearie me!
We know that the book fell from the top floor of the Garadeb household onto the pavement below, at precisely the moment that the victim was walking past.
Yes, at exactly that moment. The young woman was walking along the street in the light fog, when all of a sudden, a book fell right in front of her.
The book I threw!
Yes, Mrs. Garrideb. And what do you think the woman did? What would you do if you were walking along and suddenly a book landed right in front of you on the pavement?
Well, I really could imagine it, but I suppose she might have reached down and picked the book up.
Yes, that is exactly what the woman in fact did. She picked up the book.
Oh heavens!
And when the woman reached down to pick the fallen book up, what position would her back have been in? That's right, facing the sky, completely and utterly defenseless. Then, in the very next moment, while the woman was still bent over picking up the book, the next object fell from the room above, the jackknife, straight into the middle of her back. And at that same time, walking by chance directly behind Miss Green, was the defendant, Mr. Soseki Natsume.
Well, I never!
It appeared to Mr. Natsume that the woman simply collapsed on the floor, in the dark and the fog. He didn't see the knife falling onto her from above.
And from the other direction, the constable and his wife saw no one but the victim and her apparent attacker.
So there never was a real culprit to run from the scene in the first place.
No, this was nothing more than a series of unlikely events that culminated in an unfortunate accident. And that is the real truth behind this case. Gotcha, bitch. Case closed, motherfucker. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb. Yeah, you guys are probably gonna get sued for that. Yeah, you guys may not be arrested. You guys better hope that Miss Green does not press charges against you for negligence in throwing random objects out the window.
The very first time you showed me that knife, I had my suspicions. I wonder if perhaps it might have been something like that.
There, old bean.
Poor Mrs. Garrideb. Well, we're lucky she isn't dead.
Of course, I never meant for anything of the sort to happen, but it was all my fault, wasn't it? I take full responsibility. I let my anger get the better of me. I threw that book, and I threw the knife as well. John, dear?
It's alright, I know.
I'm ever so sorry. Truly. I'm sorry!
And there's the breakdown. Oh, we caught her. Oh man. And he's holding on a really bad knee too. Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't have the exact leg strength to stand up properly because of his knee. He could do it during his wedding, because we saw the wedding photo of him carrying her pretty much effortlessly.
Lord Van Zeeks, what news on Mrs. Garrideb?
She's been taken to the infirmary. It would appear that today's events had left her in an especially flustered state. However, I believe she will recover in due course. There is no cause for concern.
Yes, unbeknownst to themselves, they caused what could easily have been a terrible tragedy. They shall have to prepare themselves for the consequences of their actions.
There is some good news, however, my lord. I have just had word from the hospital where the victim is being treated. Her condition is improving steadily, and the doctor believes she will regain consciousness soon.
It's strange. We've been talking about the victim all this time, but we never once met her.
How wonderful. The woman is out of danger, it seems.
Yes, that is good news.
So, Mr. Soseki Natsume.
Yes?
On behalf of my fellow countrymen, I would like to take this opportunity to beg your pardon, sir. You came from your distant eastern homeland to study our great British culture, and have been repaid with immeasurable unkindness. Please accept our heartfelt apologies.
No, it is me who should be begging your pardon.
Oh no, Mr. Natsume.
That evening, when the young woman just collapsed on the pavement before my eyes, I jumped the wrong conclusion again in my confusion.
What conclusion, sir?
I was sure that the woman was dead.
Yes, Constable Beats said the same thing, didn't he? He thought she had been killed too. I suppose she must have looked completely lifeless.
It's been about a year since I arrived in Great Britain now, but I still can't get used to life here. I can't relax. I'm sure there are evil spirits lurking in the fog, like they are haunting me.
Poor Soseki-san. His imagination really has gotten the better of him. Yes, the poor man.
So when it happened, I thought the young woman had been taken by the fog spirits. I should never have dropped my books like that and run away. I should have called for help! For a doctor! For the police! Instead, I managed to create a rift in the relationship of trust between our two empires. And for that, I'm truly sorry.
Well, you're innocent, so whoopee!
One could indeed say that some sort of mischievous spirit has been at work here, I think. One that created a chain of unfortunate mishaps. We were befooled by this spirit and led to false conclusions. But thanks to Lord Von Zeeks and our young lawyer here from the east, that chain has now been broken, and the spirit exorcised. I heartily commend you both.
Oh.
Now then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Yes, my lord. In concluding this trial, I must ask one last time for your decisions regarding the defendant's culpability. Are you ready to present your findings to the court?
As the foreman of this jury, I can assure you we've reached a fair and just conclusion.
I do declare the truth can be extremely cruel at times.
Well, I didn't suspect the woman next to me, that's for sure.
Sitting in the old bean for the old bean while she's out of action, you know. But I know what her decision would be.
Does this mean I'll finally be able to get out of here and start work? Well, it's about time!
I say, I'll have a corker of a story to tell the grandchildren when I get home, won't I?
Indeed, old man, indeed.
Very well, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. I hereby demand your final decisions. Mr. Foreman.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Yippee!
Unanimous, baby, let's go.
Very well. Mr. Soseki Natsume, I hereby pronounce you not guilty.
Let the confetti fly! Woo! Case closed, motherfucker! That's right, screw you, Von Ziegs. I kick your ass again the second time. Just please don't get our client killed at the end of the trial, please. Or after the trial, please.
And finally, Mr. Natsume.
Oh, yes, Lord Sir.
You are now a free man once more.
No, I used the wrong voice.
You are now a free man once more. It is my hope that you will continue to further your education in British culture. And may you never again be brought before me.
Oh yes, sir, of course. On my life, I swear I'll never set foot in the courtroom again. I'm chargeable to 2 tears.
Thank you, consuls. Court is adjourned.
Woohoo! We did it! A satisfying end. We just hope that,
he doesn't get accidentally murdered after the trial. Wouldn't want him to suffer the same fate as Mr. McGill did in the last case. Wait, was it the last? Yeah, the last case, yeah.
20th of February, 3:17 p.m., the Old Bailey, defendant's antechamber.
Oh, locum! Wait, you mean me?
Of course! Is there another locum here?
Is there even one?
Compared to the original locum student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, your name has become rather short, hasn't it?
What's wrong with using my actual name?
Oh,
Oh, at last! I'm free! I'm free! Joyful, joyous, jubilant, jubilation! Hearty, hearty, happiness, hurrah!
oh, I am pleased. Mr. Natsume is delighted.
Would it be so hard just to say that then?
Locum, you did it! You saved me from the brink!
Well, what happened to the poor woman was in no way your fault after all. After all, I'm just glad everyone can see that now.
No, not that! Lovely, lawyer, locum, lawyer!
Yes?
I mean, as I said before, I have just not very got used to life here in Great Britain. Every time I look over my shoulder, I see foreigners, I see towering brick buildings, and from high up windows I see them looking down on me, laughing. Look at that little hunchback.
Oh dear, I'm sure it's all in your head, Mr. Natsume.
But today, you locum lawyer gave my gloom the boot. You stood firm behind that baronial bench before all those blabbering British. You battled to the bitter end, laying bare the baffling truth. And when I beheld the blinding fireworks among the beams of the Bailey's roof, I bellowed, "Beyond the best barrister ever born!"
Well, that's very flattering. And we're very pleased for you.
This has given me a wonderful anecdote to recount of my old friends back in Japan.
An anecdote? Is this what's to become of all my hard work? There you... Oh, is that Herlock?
Ah, there you are, my dear fellows.
Yeah, that is.
I apologize for keeping you waiting. I rose late this morning. Oh, Mr. Sholmes, what a pleasure to see you. I see I am here not a moment too soon. A disaster has been averted, I'm glad to say. Oh. The trial shall begin presently, Mr. Naruhodo, and I wish you the very best of luck.
You're kinda late. The trial's already over. It's just finished.
What? No! Then my haste was in vain?
It's you! Herlock Sholmes!
Oh, have we met, sir? This is Mr. Natsume, the man you had arrested, Mr. Sholmes. Ah, I see. I failed to recognize you at first. Our previous encounters have taken place in the gloom, either your bleak lodgings or that prison cell. I simply couldn't place that curious face in the light.
Charming.
This is all your fault, Herlock Sholmes! You're the reason I had to go through this terrible ordeal. I'm going to give you a piece of my mind!
My apologies, sir, but I assure you, I have placed you now. You're the fellow who abandoned that poor young lady and ran off, are you not? Had she been taken to the hospital more urgently, I feel perhaps she would have regained consciousness by now.
Oh.
But it was unavoidable, I'm sure. We are but human after all. Anyone who would have been shaken by such an experience.
I do feel very badly about how I behaved.
Well, never mind. Now then, what was it that you wanted to say to me, sir?
Nothing.
Priceless. Oh, I am sorry, really, but that was quite priceless.
Poor Soseki-san.
Still, on the bright side, you've had an extremely entertaining experience without paying a penny. And it would seem you were not even found guilty.
But there is no bright side.
Whatever do you mean, Miss Natsume?
Even after this, I'm still cursed.
by the spirits, and now by the Reaper!
Ah, Lord Von Zeeks.
Haven't forgotten, you know, what facing that man in gold means. Even if you're found not guilty, you're still doomed!
It will be alright, Mr. Natsume. If the Reaper appears trying to make trouble, I'll protect you. Hiya!
Ow.
With a perfectly executed Susato takedown.
Much as I like being turned on my head, a bit of worry might be nice next time, Mr. Sato. So, Mr. Natsume, what do you intend to do now? You mentioned something about recounting your experiences to your friends back in Japan.
Yes, I intend to return to my homeland soon.
Oh,
It has already been a year since I arrived here in Great Britain. I visited universities, libraries, bookshops. I've been honored with the tutelage of professors. I've learned so much about the wealth of literature here, and the city it has shaped. I've come to realize that it is my calling to sail home and tell my fellow countrymen about it.
that's very touching, Mr. Natsume. And perhaps in veiled, or perhaps less veiled terms, you wish to withdraw halfway around the world to escape the terror of the Reaper's curse?
That's not it at all! The more I learn of literature, the more the strange feeling claws at my insides. I feel compelled to return to my roots and attempt to pen a work of my own.
Oh, I see. A work of literature by Saseki-san. Could be an interesting read.
And what about Miss Susato and yourself, Mr. Naruhodo?
Sorry? What about us?
Will you return to Japan alongside your mustache compatriot?
Why would we?
A week has not yet passed since we arrived in London. And only now does it feel as though we have finally found our feet. And you are accommodated in a hotel at present, are you not?
That's right, but we need to find lodgings before it bankrupts us.
I've calculated we can only afford another 10 nights before our entire budget is exhausted.
Well then, you could take my lodgings.
Oh, the windowless room?
What it likes in windows. It more than makes up with a floor, and a ceiling, and walls.
Great.
And of course, I'd be happy to leave behind the accursed evil spirit!
Oh my, an evil spirit?
Oh yes. It tries to suffocate you while you sleep. It's an infallible wake-up call!
We'll think about it, if that's alright.
Perhaps I can offer a more welcome alternative. Would you consider taking lodgings with me? Really? Well, a vacancy has conveniently presented itself. Though it is up in the attic, I might add.
Are you sure it isn't just a storage loft?
I spoke with the landlady this very morning on the matter of price, and Iris is cleaning the room as we speak. You must come at once. I presume you have no luggage to speak of. Oh, this is simply wonderful. What an honor to be invited to take lodgings in the great detective's office's attic. I'm too overcome for words.
So, suggesting we look elsewhere is out then.
Then it's settled. I will prepare a welcome dinner this evening. And you must come too, Mr. Natsume. I insist.
I don't know what to say, but thank you, and yes.
Wonderful. Then I'll go and complete the paperwork for your formal release, Mr. Natsume. It shan't take long.
Somebody's happy.
Locum, I knew that you wouldn't let me down. I'm truly delighted to have met you here in London.
Likewise, Mr. Natsume. It's been a privilege meeting you too. It's a shame that we're going to have to say goodbye so soon.
Well, I've come to realize that I belong in Japan. But Locum, we'll meet again one day.
Yes, I'm sure. And hopefully by then, I'll be a successful lawyer.
Hopefully by then, I'll be a successful author.
Well, my dear fellow, our carriage appears to have arrived. Shall we go, Mr. Naruhodo?
Yes, Mr. Sholmes?
I've little doubt Mr. Natsume will be released in time for dinner this evening.
And so, with Saseki-san's innocence successfully established, we rode with Mr. Sholmes to what was to become our new home, 221B Baker Street. Hopefully, Soseki is not going to die.
20th of February, 4:41 p.m., the attic room.
Oh, okay, it's actually not that bad looking. It's probably because it's all cleaned up. So this
is to be our new office, yes.
Our office? I rather like the sound. I rather like the sound of that.
Me too. It's simply wonderful, isn't it?
I hope you can see this, Kazuma. It's only a small step, but I like to think that we're getting a little closer to your dream now.
So, my dear fellows, do you like the place?
Ah, Mr. Sholmes. Yes, thank you so much.
It's a delightful room, Mr. Sholmes. I simply adore it. Good. I'm pleased to hear it. Aris and I are delighted to welcome you. I hope everyone's hungry. It's nearly time for dinner. We'll eat as soon as Mr. Natsume arrives. We have a lot to celebrate. Aris, you must let me help you. Alright then, Susie. You can be in charge of the salad. Splendid. So, Mr. Naruhodo, how does it feel to have your own office in the capital?
It's very exciting. It's very exciting, actually. I can't help wondering what adventures await us.
Those were precisely my sentiments when I first established my office at these premises. Until I discovered the dark truth about the city of London, that is.
Sorry?
London is a glorious place, full of wonder, opportunity, prosperity, and mirth. But the brightest of lights casts the darkest of shadows.
Shadows? What do you mean?
Well, I believe you're well aware of the murkiness that lies behind London's facade already. So, once again, Mr. Naruhodo. Welcome to London.
Of course. At the time, I had no idea of the significance of those words Mr. Sholmes so casually spoke, but it wasn't long before my turn came to lift the facade and see the true depths of the murk that laid behind it. End. And that's the end of episode 4, baby! Let's go! And we'll call it here. Alright, that's a pretty successful case. And yeah, other than that, farewell for now, and hopefully I'll be streaming Neon Divide Alternative tomorrow, because that's when the session starts. Farewell for now.